We've all learned a lot about the art of the deal in the last 24 hours, and apparently the art of the deal is to announce a fake deal, watch that deal fall apart, attack the people who didn't make the deal, and only see the situation get worse, because that is what Donald Trump did with his fake ceasefire between Iran and Israel, which is now blowing up in his face. And because of that, he had a screaming meltdown this morning where he was attacking and threatening reporters and blaming them for his failure. We're going to get into it all, but before we see him attack reporters, I want to see the insane screaming meltdown that he started the day with, swearing and losing his mind.
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Trump is obviously pretty unwell. He is unraveling at this point. You don't often see him directly swear in public. I think he's kind of lost track of the bounds of how he needs to operate. Of course, it's always been reported that Trump swears a lot behind closed doors, but it's really nice to know that as a conflict escalates in the Middle East, our president is losing his mind now more than ever. He has a pudding brain. The man has a pudding brain, and it is falling apart. He spent all night and morning rage posting about how his ceasefire failed after spending most of the night posting pictures of himself, praising his efforts, which have ultimately been unsuccessful. And he knows it, and he has been very publicly embarrassed on the world stage, which is why the yelling continued right here before we get to what he had to say about the reporters who were confronting him.
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. It's ridiculous.
How will you respond if the ceasefire is fired?
I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. All I do is play both sides.
Does he not recognize that this is his fault and maybe he shouldn't have made that post? I also have to point out the fact that Donald Trump has been narrating all of this war on Truth Social. All of the major announcements and pivotal information have come from his own social media site, which, by the way, bought back $400 million of its stock just this weekend. Now, I don't know if those two things are connected, but the grift is kind of always part of this. There's a reason why Donald Trump isn't informing Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, or Pete Hegseth about anything. Well, he just makes crazy announcements on Truth Social, as he did right here before we see what he had to say about reporters. Trump wrote on Truth Social, Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Yeah, well, that didn't happen, and it's not going to happen. And the reason Donald Trump says that it's not happening, you guessed it, MSNBC and CNN. Yeah, just take a look.
I think it's been completely demolished. I think the reason we're here is because those pilots, those B-2 pilots, did an unbelievable job. And, you know, the fake news, like CNN in particular, they're trying to say, well, I agree that it was destroyed, but maybe not that destroyed. You know what they're doing? They're really hurting great pilots that put their lives in the line. CNN is scum, and so is MSDNC. They're all, and frankly, the networks aren't much better. It's all fake news, but they should not have done that. Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
You don't believe that Iran can rebuild its nuclear program?
Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there, absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished. The B-2 pilots did their job. They did it better than anybody could even imagine. They hit late in the evening. It was dark with no moon, and they hit that target with every one of those things, and that place is gone. But when I see CNN all night long, they're trying to say, well, maybe it wasn't really as demolished as we thought. It was demolished. You take a look at the pinpricks, and you see that place is gone. And I will say, I think CNN ought to apologize to the pilots of the B-2s. I think that MSDNC ought to apologize. I think these guys really, these networks and these cable networks are real losers. You really are. You're real losers.
Israel says that they violated the peace.
You're gutless losers. I say that to CNN because I watch it. I have no choice. I got to watch that garbage. It's all garbage. It's all fake news. But I think CNN is a gutless group of people. And the people that run it, nobody even knows it's been sold so many times. But the people that run it ought to be ashamed. MSDNC, a guy named Brian Roberts, he heads it. He's a disgrace. He's a weak, pathetic disgrace.
So Trump is now blaming MSNBC and CNN for not praising him enough for a military operation that wasn't successfully carried out as the reason there's not a peace deal between Iran and Israel. It doesn't even begin to get close to making any sense at all. He is just completely melting down and losing his mind, and I'm sure some of Rachel Maddow's show last night contributed to how angry Donald Trump was with MSNBC, and I want to take a look at the very important info she was sharing right here.
Well, again, it depends on who is running the U.S. government. And in the case of President Donald Trump, the way he has been preparing the government for this eventuality is by forcing out the head of the National Security Branch at the FBI. Don't worry, though, there's also a National Security Division at the Department of Justice. Well, Trump demoted the acting head of the National Security Division at the Department of Justice, apparently because that acting chief didn't move quickly enough after the inauguration to take down the picture of President Biden and put up the picture of President Trump. And so he was demoted out of that job. That said, the FBI also has its own specific counterterrorism division. He appears to have been pushed out. He left the FBI last month. But don't worry, there is at least one senior counterterrorism position in the United States government that has been definitively and deliberately filled by this president. It's at the Department of Homeland Security. Department of Homeland Security's domestic counterterrorism hub leads nationwide efforts to prevent targeted acts of violence of all kinds. President Donald Trump, in his infinite wisdom, has put this man in charge of that at Homeland Security. Feast your eyes. He's 22 years old, 1 year out of college with no evident national security experience whatsoever. Before volunteering for the Trump campaign, his LinkedIn page reportedly explains that his work experience includes, quote, lawn care work around my neighborhood. Also, working part-time as a clerk at an H-E-B supermarket. He also apparently once had an internship at the Heritage Foundation, and according to a recent ProPublica profile of this young man, again, who is Donald Trump's best guess at who would make a good counterterrorism chief for the United States government at this moment in time, according to ProPublica, quote, the bulk of his leadership experience comes from having served as Secretary General of a model United Nations club in school. But now that is who Donald Trump has running domestic counterterrorism efforts for the U.S. government, for the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. I feel duty-bound to inform you that the left eyebrow is itself registered as a lethal weapon. So underestimate him at your peril, ladies. In April, there was an arson attack targeting Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro and his family at the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania. 4 days later, a self-proclaimed white supremacist, shot up the campus of Florida State University, wounding 6 people and killing 2. ProPublica notes that he used a picture of Hitler as the profile picture for his online accounts. In May, there was a car bombing of a fertility clinic in California for somebody who ascribes to some sort of anti-natalist, bizarre extremist ideology. In late May, 2 employees of the Israeli embassy were murdered in Washington, D.C. In June, an event in support of Israeli hostages in Gaza was the target of a bizarre firebombing attack in Colorado in which 12 people were injured. Last weekend, one Minnesota Democratic leader and her husband were assassinated. Another Minnesota Democratic legislator was shot 9 times and has thus far survived. His wife was shot 8 times. She has just miraculously been released from the hospital. So it's not like domestic counterterrorism is a niche concern in America right now. Even before the new and explicit warning about potential revenge inside this country for Trump's decision to bomb Iran. But from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, where the director is off the Quiet Skies Air Marshal list herself now, and Trump has thrown out that whole program for the whole country because who cares about that stuff, where they are now unleashed at the Office of the Director of National Intelligence so the office can be on full alert for the lizard people to move their power centers into the secret underground cities, right? From the DNI to the decimation of the Justice Department, and particularly the FBI, which is now led at the director and deputy director level by 2 right-wing podcasters, to the Department of Homeland Security, where a lawn boy and Model UN kid has been appointed to lead counterterrorism. In every element of its responsibility to keep the American people safe, the U.S. government under Donald Trump is, I guess, doing the best they're capable of. This is the best they can do. This is your government under Trump Republican leadership, working to keep you safe.
This administration is incompetent. They are throwing us into chaos, and they seemingly don't care. This is a politics of petty grievance for Donald Trump. Really, all this war that he has launched is a self-masturbatory act in which he can praise himself on Truth Social for pretending to and failing to solve a problem he started. This is no tremendous win from Trump, even if it does shake out with short-term peace. Donald Trump has only created conflict here, and it seems like it's getting worse. We're going to be covering it on this show, and if you want to support that and the independent journalism we're doing, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.